Hello and welcome to another developer diary for Imperator Rome, and I believe this is going to be the last developer diary based on the Menander patch, the one that has just come out, because at the end of this dev diary we're going to get a tease about what the next one is called, but we will get onto that after we've talked about what's in the dev diary. So, without further ado, hello and welcome to another developer diary for Imperator Rome. The last 2 weeks, many of us have been busy reading and reacting to the various reactions to the released Menander update, while others have begun to work on the next update for the game. It has been interesting seeing what players do with the new features, both in the form of stories of games played and written feedback many of you have provided us with. The suggestions forum and the new Senatus Populesque forum have both seen many good ideas on how the new systems can be improved upon, as well as new ideas for the game in general. These suggestions are much appreciated, and both me and others on the team spend quite a bit of time looking through them on a regular basis. Now, before we move on, we're going to quickly have a look at these forums. Firstly, the suggestion forum, which is this one, and it's basically just the same as before. It's the suggestion forum with a bunch of suggestions in it. I haven't really posted in this as much as maybe I should. I like making the suggestion videos, but they do take a lot of work. There's a lot that actually goes into those. So that's why I personally haven't got any threads here, but I do know a couple of these things have gotten, a couple of my videos have been shared in here, which is nice. Because I get tagged in it occasionally. But yeah, this is the suggestion forum, so if you have any suggestions for the game, then this is the place to go for that. And then finally, the Senatus Populusque, whatever. That forum as well is over here, and basically the point of this one is you make your suggestion, and based on the amount of votes that it gets, upvotes and downvotes and what have you, it will sort of rank it, and obviously the posts that have the most likes are the ones that get the most engagement. Then they're, I guess, considered more than others. We can just go through, let's go just through the 3 most voted suggestions of the last week. Let's see about what these are. So, most popular suggestion received 32 positive votes and been detailed by Thor in the Inventions Overhaul new features. That's interesting. Inventions Overhaul is not something I've given too much thought on. It is something I don't think that it's rightfully amazing in Imperator right now. It's nothing standout. It's just something that I haven't felt has been a big priority. But let's quickly have a look at what his idea is. Do I have to? It's nice that this won't actually move out. I would like to, whatever. Seriously not opening them out any further. That's weird. Oh well. Second place is character family trees. This has been something that I've been asking for a very long time by Marcus Pica. And then third, it goes to Toady, Squalor, a mechanic that dynamically disincentivizes and disperses extreme concentrations of pops. I like this. I like this quite a lot. This is really nice. So yeah, he wants to get rid of the mega cities, which I'm in favor of. Actually, you know what I can check is just clicking this, and that'll bring me there. Yes, it does. So, change the invention system, add an academy, and a new job, the inventor. So this is kind of what he's got going on here. I think maybe what I'll do is a bit of a review of the Senatus Populesque forum of the different things in it, and give my thoughts on each of the suggestions in another video. Because I don't think it is something I want to go into deeply now, because there's a lot, and some of the suggestions are pretty detailed and deep. So I think what I'll do is I'll come back to this in a future video. But for right now, let's get back to the dev diary. In some ways, Menander was an update that allowed you to interact more with your pops and the internal parts of your country, and it's clear that this was a focus that many of you appreciated. Based on player input, we made a number of changes in the minor 1.5.1 and 1.5.2 updates last week. The latter patch also included some fixes we've been working on for older bugs and quality of life, but that we had not been able to include in the 1.5 release. This, for instance, is how 1.5.2 came to include the addressing of the old inconvenience that you could not both take land and take subjects in the same peace treaty. This also allows you to, for example, let's just launch the game, and so I can kind of describe what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. One of the other things that it allows you to do, which was not possible before and was a real big pain in the dick, was actually take more than one subject in the same war. So, say as Egypt, we want to go to war with the Antigonid Kingdom, who has I think this is accurately described as a fuck ton of vassals. You can now do that. Let's just keep going until the 1st of January so I get the claims. I'm obviously not going to be playing this campaign, I'm just showing things. But yeah, you can now take claims on everything. Now we'll use the legacy of Alexander, and then if we were to win said war in the peace deal, obviously we'd need to occupy them, which we don't have yet. But what we could do is Astacus becomes a feudatory, and Athens also becomes a feudatory, and say we want to make Eretria a client state and Ionia a feudatory. You can do that all in the same war, whereas before it was literally just you gotta choose one and that's it. You couldn't even take land. If you wanted to take any feudatories at all, you couldn't take land, you couldn't take any other feudatories. It was just, that was it. Which was incredibly limiting and didn't feel right or good. So that's really good that that has changed quite a lot. Anyway, moving on. Most of all, however, 1.5.2 was an update that looked to tweak the balance of many new changes and additions in Menander. In particular, changes have focused on stability. One of the changes in the Menander update, apart from the new systems introduced, such as cultural integration or the new Senate, was changing how aggressive expansion, tyranny, and stability interacted with one another. The new way of doing things is quite a dramatic change from how it was before, and took some getting used to for many. It also became clear that it needed some more tuning, so in 1.5.2 we decreased the impact on stability and increased the impact of tyranny on aggressive expansion as well. So basically the thing that a lot of people were complaining about is that any amount of aggressive expansion was giving you a negative modifier to your monthly stability. It's like 0.1 per 10%, I think. Something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers were. But basically this was incredibly limiting. Generally, if you've ever considered doing a world conquest or doing any kind of big conquests, you generally try to stay at around about 70 aggressive expansion. Any higher than that and you were suffering a bit too many problems. It was before the rework to the amount of, the more AE you had, the cheaper land was to take. And 70 AE was the sweet spot where land was as cheap as it was ever going to be. So that was where people like to stay. It has changed since, and I think you need actually like 100 to get it as cheap as it needs to be. I don't know. I haven't tried to do those big conquests since after that change. Since before that change. So I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but people were complaining that if you are at 70 AE, then your soft cap for stability, if you stab a pig every 2 years or 3 years or whatever it was, making sure to do that was something like 20 stability, which obviously is not enough to declare war. It makes your country incredibly unstable, and it's just not really fun to stay at that low stability. And it was also going to cost you like 400 political influence every 5 years or something crazy. Again, all these numbers, I'm not pulling them out of my head or my arse. I'm just trying to remember what I've seen other people complaining about and seeing people math it out on the Reddit and such. And I've got a terrible memory, so take all those numbers with a pinch of salt. Also, even if those numbers are spot on perfect, they've all changed now with the 1.5.2 patch, so fucking irrelevant really, isn't it? Anyway, moving on. It also provided an opportunity to make characters in government more impactful, and so ruler traits and offices now have increased importance for those who want to keep their country stable by reducing aggressive expansion or tyranny. So that was what stability was changed in 1.5.2, and I did do a video where I went over the patch notes there, so go and check that out. It's on the channel somewhere. Maybe I'll link it in the description if I remember. I will hopefully remember, but again, as previously mentioned, terrible memory. Anyway, integrating cultures. One of the biggest changes to the Menander update was the new system for integrating cultures and affording rights and privileges to non-integrated cultures. This is a change that seems to have been well received, but many expressed hesitation about if it was worth integrating cultures due to the severe impact this had on the state and other integrated culture happinesses. To address these concerns, we've added some additional ways to increase the happiness shared by your integrated cultures as you grow bigger and increase in rank, while also reducing the negative impact of integration. Negative impact used to be negative 5% happiness, now it's a negative 4%, and then every rank you get plus 4% integrated culture happiness. So you can basically have a free one every rank, and you know, it's a little bit of a band-aid. I think the issue was not so much if it was worth it. I know that is a concern that I brought up. I just didn't think it was worth doing all that much. Like, you want to be very selective with it. But at the same time, you do want to do it a bit. And like I said, the problem wasn't the cost. The problem wasn't like how happy it would make it. It was things like what Darren from Republic of Play brought up. The mechanics of it. Like, the mechanics of it are fine. They work mechanically. But from a historical perspective, something like Rome has now integrated the Etruscan population. They will now never convert to Roman. It's backwards. It's backwards. And I've seen a lot of Darren's videos about his critiques of Imperator, and a lot of the time I do find myself disagreeing with a lot of things he says. For this one, however, his latest video, there was nothing really I could find to disagree on. It was easy to pick holes in his previous video. This one, it was pretty bulletproof, and this one very much hit home very, very hard that, yeah, the Romans, they integrated cultures by giving them rights, by allowing them to join the Senate, by allowing them to be citizens. That was the way that they converted people to being Roman. And it's completely backwards in Imperator, where you cannot, like, you can either say you can keep all of your rights and such, and you will always be your culture, you'll never integrate into our culture. Or you can treat them like shit and they'll become Roman. It's not the way that Rome worked. It really just is not the way that Rome worked. Rome spent a lot of money, a lot of effort into integrating cultures into being Roman, to Romanizing massive populations, and they did that not by being dicks to them and preventing them from, you know, joining officers. They allowed them to become citizens, to become nobles, to own land, to do all this kind of shit. That was the way that they Romanized them. And yeah, like I say, it's just completely backwards. I think that's something that might need addressing. Certainly more than this. Anyway, there was also some bugs. There was some pretty horrible bugs, actually. Crashing bugs on the when the province menu, which was what 1.5.1 was all about fixing. There's also some bugs about when you win a civil war, all your characters died, which was a fun one. Thankfully, I didn't suffer from that, but I've seen quite a few people had. One specific issue we had to spend some time tracking down was seemingly random, but quite common. Sudden death of all characters in a country after winning a civil war. It turned out this happened whenever the revolt leader was on a ship on the time of surrender. That's insane. That's insane. Like, such random things lead to such huge consequences. Like, what possible link can you make between, you know, the leader being on a ship? Like, even mechanically, I'm talking about the code. Like, I cannot link, you know, revolt leader on ship with everyone in the country is now dead. I cannot link those two. That's why code is fucking magic, and you cannot convince me otherwise. But yeah, they were able to hunt it down and fix it, which is great. That's all I have time for today. but they're telling us what we've been up to in the last 2 weeks. It's pretty good. Anyway, we've now begun to work on update 1.6, an update which we'll talk more about in the future. While we can't promise anything at this stage, we're continuing to keep an eye out for major issues or imbalances related to Menander, particularly investigating some of the issues you've raised with us regarding food imports. Yeah, that's a rough one. You need to import 2 grain to get the benefits of any grain. If you only import 1 piece of grain, then it doesn't work anything, which is a rough one. That's really, really shitty. And AI naval construction, the AI is really bad at building boats again. So, yeah, fun. Carthage is easy, so if you're struggling with Carthaginian navy, now is the time to beat the shit out of them before that gets fixed. Anyway, time to move on to what Arheo's got to say. Arheo here, something I wanted to mention in the past weeks, is that the dialogue between the community and dev team is very much appreciated, and I've been particularly impressed by the level of meaningful debate in numerous threads I've seen both here and elsewhere. One topic of conversation that repeatedly occurs is one I'd like to address here. Much is made of the historical extent of the Roman Republic and Empire, and this is something that remains a constant thorn in the side of both balancing and gameplay. It's tricky enough balancing act to enable those who wish to play the titulation of Rome and maintain a relatively historical rate of conquest, as well as those who enjoy a slower pacing of gameplay that might be more appropriate for other nations. And just on the topic of the historical extent of the Roman Republic at this time, the game ends in, I think, like 26 CE or AD, whichever one you prefer. I don't really care either way. That's when the game ends. And to put that into context, Rome did not have Mare Nostrum at this point. They had not completed Mare Nostrum by the end of the game. They did not have Egypt. There was, I believe, a large part of... there was another place that they didn't control at the time. Roman Empire in... what's the date? I said 26 AD. And I'll just take a picture of this for you, if I can get a good one, which I don't yet. I will find it and I'll bring it here. I'll be right back. Alright, so here's a picture of the extent of the Roman Republic and Roman Empire. So the game is 277 years long. And if we start in 303 BCE, that means that I think the game actually ends in BC, right? It's not AD at all. So we're ending somewhere between this one here and this one here. So the extent of the Roman Empire, or Roman Republic, at this time is we have all of this, which is nice. We've got this, which is nice. Don't have any of that green. We've got this. Actually, we do have Egypt. Wasn't expecting that. Don't have Sine. Got this. Got this. Something like that. That's the extent of the Roman Empire. That is not Mare Nostrum. That is not Mare Nostrum because, you know, right here isn't part of the empire. And also, it's between these. AD 14 I don't think is a part of it. So don't have that. Don't have that. Much of this, I think, at the time of Caesar's death, like the borders went like this. Right, there was just this hilly area that the Muslim conquest also had problems with. Caesar did manage to get this from Mithridates in the Mithridatic War. But yeah, Mare Nostrum, not complete at this time. Not complete. Wasn't done. So there's that to consider when you're wanting to do, you know, your... Oh, the game is broken because it doesn't allow me to do historical extent of the entire Roman Empire. Yeah, because the game doesn't last long enough to do that. Because it didn't... Like, the historical massive extent of the Roman Empire was achieved in 117 AD, which is, you know, over a century after the game ends. Like I said, we do not get to the Empire period. So, I mean, that's just something to bear in mind. You can't do world conquest. You can't get to, you know, historical mass borders of the Roman Empire. Neither could Rome. So, you know, give yourself a pat on the back for that. Anyway, back to the dev diary. The difficulty or ease of such a feat has fluctuated a lot over the last few updates, but I believe it's somewhere I'm relatively happy with now. Recreating the Roman Republic at its historical extent should, in my opinion, be a very difficult challenge. This is something that should require you to utilize all tools available, aside from exploits. As a counter to this, it makes the concept of that ever-elusive world conquest almost entirely unattainable. Somebody will do it, though. This is something I'm okay with. It was always be done, as the 3 mountains of EU4 has shown, but it's not something I'm actively intending to balance around. Good, nor should he. And I feel it's fair to make this clear. That said, it's a topic I'm keen to hear more on from those interested in follow-up to this, so by all means, make yourself heard. I am quite happy to have world conquest be entirely unattainable. I'm fine with that. That's not something that bothers me at all. Somebody will do it. I don't think it's going to be me. I don't think I'm ever going to have it. I've never tried for it. It's just not something I'm interested in. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a go on YouTube at some point, but it's probably going to be a fail. On an entirely different note, while some of you are understandably impatient to get your hands on more information regarding the next update coming from Imperator, you have to wait a little bit longer. In usual fashion, however, I shall tease you by announcing 2 things. Firstly, while we're working on the Season of War, it's not quite yet begun. Secondly, your next update will be termed Vitruvius, and we'll be introducing some new faces in the coming weeks to talk about it. So, Vitruvius. Who is Vitruvius? What is he? And yes, if you are thinking, wait, isn't it Vitruvian, as in like the Vitruvian man? Yes, yeah, kind of. So Vitruvius was the guy, or I guess, I don't know if the guy, because I'm not sure how many people know about him, but Vitruvius Polonius, I think is his name, Marcus Vitruvius, something like that. He wrote a book called De Architectura, which was his sort of ideas on how to do architecture in the Roman Republic. And he was around at the same time as Augustus. He gave his book to Augustus and sort of like, look, these are my ideas on ideal Roman stuff. He also was interested in the body as well, and like ideal physique and shit like that. But his ideas ended up being integrated into Roman society and life and stuff. And yeah, so he had De Architectura, he gave it to Augustus, and he invented the idea that all buildings should have 3 attributes called firmitas, utilitas, and venutitas, so strength, utility, and beauty. The principles later adopted by the Romans. This is from Wikipedia. Much later, during obviously the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, found the book again, or rather, it was rediscovered by a Florentine guy called Poggio Bracciolini, and reprinted and stuff. And Da Vinci saw this and really liked the idea of, perfect buildings and perfect architecture and perfect proportions and stuff. So then Leonardo da Vinci created the Vitruvian Man, and that's why that's the link there. But the Vitruvian Man is based on the ideas of Vitruvius rather than Vitruvius's actual physique, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's who Vitruvius is. This has been your history lesson with Lambert. Anyway, moving on. I was curious, so I looked it up as well. So into the comments as well. Would it be possible, once culture has been integrated, to change its culture name such as the state culture becomes before it? So Roman Etruscan. I would love that, but it's probably not going to happen. This is indeed essentially what an integrated culture is supposed to be. I'm not sure if that makes sense to color in your own color. That would take away information that you would need if you were ever interested in disenfranchising the culture, for instance. There really should be a way of, making them, integrate them a further step and they become Roman. Something like that. Accepted cultures don't allow you to colonize. It should be fixed in 1.5.2. Oh, really? That was not in the patch notes. That was definitely not in the patch notes. Hopefully it has been fixed. I'm not sure yet. I don't feel they are integrated. The modifiers tell me they're integrated and I can see their percent happiness the same as the Romans, but it doesn't feel integrated or Roman. In my opinion, they are of a different color and still bearing the name Etruscan. It makes me feel they're part of the enemy and must be destroyed. This, right, okay, this may sound like there's a lot of feel arguments. There's not much like mechanical this and this arguments. But this is probably the best argument I have seen yet as to why the culture changing and integrating system is missing a step. This is Mohawk Wolfo 98. This is really well written, honestly. Because I completely agree. If it doesn't feel right, then it's not right. And I don't think Mohawk is alone in this feeling. I certainly agree with him. In my Epirus campaign, I have integrated the Romans and I have integrated Macedonians. I then annihilated the Macedonians after I integrated them, and then I went and I've attacked the Romans again after I've integrated them. They are still my enemy. Those Romans are still my enemy. Suggest compromising, rename the culture to Roman Etruscan. I'd be totally fine with that. So having my culture in Italy be Epirate Roman. Just put your primary culture and then the culture you've integrated, put them as part of the name. That if you can just do a rename, that would go a long way. It doesn't even need to be recolored on the map, I don't think. Unless you give us an integrated culture map mode, that would go a long way as well, I think, to showing that it's, it would work. But anyway, let's see the reply. If we were to do something like that, I currently have no plans to do so. I feel it'd be wrong to tie to integration. Granting a cultural entity rights to citizenship is not the same as them becoming Roman. But that was the process. That was the process of Romanization. So maybe I have a feeling that Rome is a special case, as they generally are. I think Rome is different. Yeah, they're just a special case in most things. But I feel like, at least for the Romans, that should be the way that that should be the way that assimilation works. And I'd love to see an experiment where everything was flipped on its head, where people would not integrate at all unless they'd not assimilate. Like, there would be absolutely zero cultural assimilation unless you integrated the culture. I'd love to see that experiment and see how the game would play with it. I'd be very, very interested to see that. And let's refresh, see if there's anything else. There is not. Alright, so that is all for today. That is the extent of the dev diary. It's been a long one. It's a pretty short dev diary, but I guess I just had a lot to talk about. So I would love to know your thoughts in the comments section below about Menander, how you're enjoying it or hating it or anything in between. Let me know your thoughts on that. What do you think of the name Vitruvius, and what do you think it's gonna mean for the next patch? I didn't actually get much into that. I will, though, in another video. I'll get into what I think Vitruvius is going to be about. Obviously it's the war update, so there is something to that. But I'm going to get into that because I have some ideas. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel, comments and likes are the best way to do it. But I also have a Patreon page if you so desire to help me out even more. There's a link to that in the description below. But for now, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.